So I thought we'd talk about a couple things today. One of them is greenhouse gases. I got a comment I want to show you right here. And I wanted to explain what and how greenhouse gases work on the planet Earth, since there seems to be some confusion over it. Let's go over to the board. The greenhouse gas effect. All right, so since we're talking about the Earth and the Sun, let's just do it that way. What is this Sun? The Sun is a ball of hydrogen and helium. Now, in the center where the pressures are so powerful that you can fuse different elements together, we make photons of light. So it takes thousands of years for each photon of light to get to the surface of the Sun. Once it gets to the surface of the Sun, it goes out into space in a straight line at the speed of light, which is known as a light photon, which has all these, right? You got that thing going with the, anyway, so it looks something like that, right? And these photons of light are hot, so they come into the atmosphere, or let's explain it like a greenhouse on the surface of the planet Earth. So let's say that a pane of glass has an R1. That means it can keep heat inside twice as long as without anything at all. That's an R1. So the photons come in to the greenhouse, they hit the wall, they hit this wall, and they discharge the heat that they had inside of them, and they're gone. Then the heat rises to the ceiling, but because the ceiling has R1, there's tons of photons coming in with R1, which means that the heat in here will be twice as hot as it is out here, keeping the greenhouse warm even at night. It will be much warmer inside of a greenhouse at night than outside, even with just R1, the value of R1. Now, let's say these photons come down to the planet Earth and we have CO2, and it's blanketing. This blue represents CO2. The more CO2 molecules you have in the air, the more that this comes down through the atmosphere, hits one of these molecules and goes back down, causing heat to build up in the atmosphere. The more CO2 you get, the more of this reflection. So in other words, the heat comes in, hits, comes back, dies. The next one comes in, hits, dies. Instead of coming down, hitting the ground, and reflecting the heat back out into space, there's this blanket which is causing the heat to come back down onto the surface of the planet. Dealing with a broken tripod, if something looks out of whack, that's what's going on until we get our new tripod, which should be here within 7 to 12 weeks. Things have changed from just a year ago, how they have changed. But that's the explanation of greenhouse gas and how that works. The gas acts as a blanket which reflects the photons of light back and forth, and the heat stays below the blanket of CO2. Exactly like when you go into a sleeping bag, or you put a blanket over the top of you, or you insulate your house. You see, the higher the R rating, the more the heat will stay in the house far longer. So R2, R3, R4. Nowadays it's R23, which is used in the ceilings of a house, and R19 in the walls, usually. And that will keep the heat that's made or generated in the house instead of letting it go outside and go to waste. So that's sort of a quick explanation of greenhouse gases. And I appreciate you, Nick, putting the comment on. Unfortunately, YouTube, for some reason, doesn't like your comments, so they hide them. I try to put them out one way or another, but I'm not always successful. Unfortunately, YouTube's destroying its own platform. I don't understand that. What he said was incorrect, but at least somebody has a chance to correct him, whereas if you just hide it, nobody can fix anything. So as these greenhouse gases continue to increase, we're going to see more and more difficulties around the planet. We're going to see more firestorms, more huge snowstorms for a while, ice storms, and huge amounts of rain, tornadoes, hurricanes, and dust storms. Let's go over to the board and find out what's happening with Europe and what they can expect in the next day or two. Sahara dust expected to hit Europe. Back in February they had quite a dust storm which darkened the skies and caused much of the same problem that will come around this time. A substantial plume of Saharan dust will hit southern Europe soon, reaching as far north as Norway. This dust can cause red skies and can stain cars and windows or whatever it lands on because of the redness and the orangeness of the dust. This dust can have some health impacts as well, breathing and eyes. So we're seeing that more and more of this stuff is happening around the planet. More planetary weather, which is disrupting things. And along with weather comes diseases that can cause population declines. We're really seeing it now. And this is just really the beginning of the beginning. When things get about 1.5 to 2C, you're just not going to believe that we're on the same planet. It's amazing how evaporation from water can do so much harm if left unchecked. I appreciate all the ups, the downs, and definitely the comments. On this rainy day here in California, about 56 degrees. We'll be seeing everybody next video.